If you are not a frequent airplane traveler and someone asks you to switch your window seat for their kid, what would you do? Say, not exactly on topic. But when DS was a toddler, I took advantage of early boarding so I could strap in the FAA-approved car seat, get out snacks, make so he didn't have to make one last trip to the toilet, all that. Imagine my angst when dude is standing in the aisle, slaying "you need to move, that's our seat." I double-checked and sure enough, I was behind our booked seats. Thankfully, the angel he was traveling with said, "We are not making her move that baby," and planted herself in the row I should have been in. I said it then, but again, thank you for switching seats with us. Last time I took a flight, I purposefully booked the L seat because I pee a lot. When I boarded, there was a lady in my seat with her two friends next to her, and she's like, "Oh, we're all friends, do you mind if we swap seats?" She had a window seat on the opposite side, so I immediately said no. "Sorry, I want the aisle." She then proceeded to convince the two people on the opposite side to shove down, so the aisle seat was free. I might have taken it, except the old lady in the middle looked like she was dead, so I told her again no. Sorry, I would prefer my seat. It was an awkward flight. I was a semi-frequent traveler back in the day, but back then I'd volunteer in my aisle window seat if it meant someone's 7-year-old could sit next to their mum and brother instead of a middle seat in the middle aisle between two middle-aged adults. This can be complicated. For small kids that have car seats, the seats must be the ones closest to the window, because the car seat impedes normal exit. If it's like Southwest where seats are unassigned and there is a car seat, absolutely I'll move. If a parent can't sit by their kid because the airline fucked up, I'll move. If they want the kid to be able to look outside and didn't book tickets to support that's their fault. I'll let the kid look. But in my experience, they look outside for a few minutes and either sleep or play on an iPad. Not worth it. I got scolded for this exact scenario on a trip a few weeks ago. The mom asked if I would switch the window seat for the middle seat so her child could look out the window. She didn't even offer her aisle seat because she would be uncomfortable in the middle seat and 6'3". She was maybe 5'5" tops. I told her it was absurd of her to ask. She got the flight attendant involved. They asked if I would move. I asked where they would move me that would be convenient for me. They said first class. Lady was not impressed that I got upgraded. By default, I prefer a window seat. As a matter of fact, I purposefully do a web check in the day before my flight to maximize my chances of getting a window seat. That being said, it depends on many things. Did I pay extra for the seat? How old is the kid? With what seat would I be swapping? How long is the flight? The base response is lack of planning does not constitute my priority or my problem. I've traveled with kids before and it is really not that hard nor rocket science to ensure we are all sitting together. I always pay for my seat selection. I've had people ask me if I could swap for multiple reasons. I always reply with I paid for this seat selection. The best one was a young couple that asked. I was sitting in the emergency exit row. Gives you more leg room. He was sitting next to me. He asked if his partner could swap with me because she needed leg room due to her having knee pain. I replied with my usual answer. He sent her back to her seat and he sat back down next to me. Guess he really cared about her knee pain. Just got back from a trip United Economy Plus to Europe. Front row. 10-hour flight. The guy next to us was super patient for the first hour as my husband, and I wrangled our baby. Flight attendant politely asked if we wanted a bassinet set up, which would require the gentleman to have to move from his window seat. And the FA also asked if he'd be willing to move. We said we'd love it, but only if the man got moved to a better seat. They put him in first class for the rest of the flight. Pays to be nice sometimes, folks. I don't pay extra to choose my seat, so I'd be open to a trade. Just depends what seat they're giving up. If it's an aisle, then fine, because I'm just corner sleep through the flight anyways. If it's a middle, then hell no, depends where I'm going to. If I'm flying into somewhere with a cool view like NYC, then I'll want to keep my window seat. If I'm flying somewhere with a boring view, and I don't care about the window. It also depends on how they ask. If they are rude or entitled about it, then they can kick rocks. I have a friend who is a very frequent flyer. Always gets window or aisle. Always puts on her earphones as soon as she sits down. She's been asked several times to switch seats, usually ignores the people, pretending she can hear them. Most leave her alone. 2 or 3 haven't, and tap her on the shoulder until she responds. She has just looked at them and smiled, saying no, thank you. That doesn't work for me, and puts the earphones back on. This has kind of confused these people and they leave her alone. I always request pay for the aisle seat. I frequently get asked to relocate due to 2 people wanting to sit together for whatever reason. I always plainly state I paid extra to book this seat, so you can either pay double my cost or get me into first class. From there I put my headphones on and go about my trip. Their failure to plan ahead and book the seats together is not mine or your issue. Hell, I've even managed to update seats at the airport by asking the check-in agent nicely. You can absolutely decline if you don't want to switch. I personally may consider it if the child was very young and the airline refused to put the seats together. I, however, am diligent when I book travel for my kid to pick seats together. Some people may try to avoid dumb fees and bank on strangers not pushing back. If the request is to switch to an aisle seat, you can just say, no thanks. I picked this seat in advance and I'm going to stay. The rest is up to them to behave. Under 2 hours and no interesting geological features on the way, sure. On the flight path, one of my interests? Probably not, because I chose the seat for that purpose. To have the wall to lean against and not be climbed over every time somebody has to use the bathroom. Kids get bored of the window pretty quickly after takeoff anyway. In my experience, probably not. Especially because I will pay extra to sit by the window. Being stuck in a flying metal tube isn't exactly the most entertaining thing. And at least during the day I can stare outside and watch the world whiz by. If they have a sob story, I believe I'm sorry. It was a very last-minute flight purchase because my father is dying. There were no together seats left, etc. Then maybe. Depends on how entitled they act, you know. Could this be a generational thing? I'm a boomer and my immediate reaction was, of course I would. It wouldn't have even occurred to me before reading this thread that someone would cheap out on seat selection and assume that they'd be able to negotiate a window seat for their kid. And even if they did, why should the kid suffer because their parent is an asshole? Their life with that parent probably already sucks enough as it is. I swapped seat this weekend, 3 across, so I got the aisle seat. Yes, parents should have arranged it ahead of time. And I've been that overwhelmed by travel parent before, so if I can help the parent out by something so minor, I'm gonna do it. Also, I do get motion sick on planes. The window seat reduces that some, but not enough to not make the swap. If it's adults who want to sit together, that's a no without additional benefits to me. Our flight from Caribbean to UK, and this 5-member Australian family was split up over the economy section. I got one of the bulkhead seats just before the business class division for my long legs. The father was across the aisle from me and became mildly sick. One of the adult children asked to change seats, and I didn't because of my legroom. It happened over 5 years ago, and I still regret my decision. I would generally just say no, unless the seat they were offering to trade was more desirable to me. I choose and pay for the seat I want in advance. They should have done the same. To add, there are exceptions, of course. Did we have to switch planes and the seating is all messed up anyway? Are you being nice to me? Or are you being a bully? A nice smile and a please goes a long way versus being an entitled ass about it. Nah. I always pre-book my seats and pay extra. I really don't care what the excuse is. If you cared more than I did about the seat, you would have pre-booked it and paid. To pay the extra for pre-booked seating, and then trying to play musical chairs before the plane takes off. Ryanair in the UK is the worst for people trying to do this. Cheap airlines for ya. As a mother of 2 kids, no. And especially if I paid for the seat. When I travel with my kids, not often, but still we pay extra so they are in the window seat. If something happens and they aren't, life happens. The child can sit couple of hours without a window seat. If you didn't plan this through, it's not my problem. If I didn't thought it through, it's only my problem and my husband's. Who am I kidding? I would say no, especially if it would mean sitting in the middle seat. I have been asked by flight attendants and fellow passengers to trade seats. I require an aisle seat for medical reasons, which is none of their business. If you want to keep your window seat, do so. You paid for that seat. You selected that seat. Your fellow passenger should have selected a window seat for their child. Honestly, in my 33 years I've been on an airplane once, for a 1-hour flight, and I was ready to kill myself. If I never get into another plane ever in my life, it'll be way too f***ing soon. But if I absolutely had to, and if this situation arises, I'll just give the damn kid the seat and pray that he stays silent, because otherwise I'm probably opening the exit door and f***ing jumping.